I'm just calling to say I
am so troubled by the soul of mine. I've said those words so many times. I need you in this life.
Hello everyone, it's been a year since I posted my previous video, so it is indeed a while that I got a new content on my channel. Just recently, my university have a semestral break and thankfully, I got to finish this painting in a month, including the days I procrastinated and got unmotivated to continue the painting. At first, I was a bit scared to do this painting since I haven't touched a paintbrush for months since I was away from home. However, when I started to paint, I became bolder, but it was not like before. Some colors were a bit dull and lifeless, but I did end up fixing them on the last day, which is the final layer. I usually don't paint whenever I am unmotivated, but this painting was an exception. I actually done this sketch last year before I moved to my college. It did ended up, being untouched for almost 6 months, and I wanted to finish this painting so bad when I have the chance to. So in the end, I watched a lot of art vlogs and oil painting videos on YouTube to find that spark, and it did actually help me. I then studied the picture I am going to paint before mixing the colors, and once I finished mixing, I started the painting by doing the woman's face, arms, and a bit of her clothes as well. You might notice that I usually start off using the darker colors, and that is because I want to avoid having that muddy result on the painting due to the excessive use of the brush and paint on the canvas. This technique did also make painting easy once you have the right shade of colors on your palette. And if you want to use this technique, always remember to keep the darker tones thin and the lighter ones thick. This is also one of the reasons why you should also be careful in handling darker and lighter tones once you place your brush on the canvas, because it might get messy if it is not done right. And just like I said, there are times that some colors are dull and lifeless, and that is the result of having or doing the excessive brush strokes on your painting. And I guess the right mindset to do this method is to think that you're just doing the shadow first and building up the lighter area of the subject, just like doing a shading in a charcoal painting or a sketch. Now, doing the fabrics were a bit tricky since I usually don't paint gowns or long dresses. This is the first time I'm doing this, and I just used the same method, but one thing I did realize is to always blend the different colors, but not too much, so that you can have that flowy effect on her dress and not just those sharp edges. The knight's face was a bit difficult compared to the women, since it has a lot of skin tone colors such as this reddish, pinkish, greenish, and so on and so forth. However, it did make the painting process more fun and a bit more alive. And this step was not that challenging for me because the eyes does not require the painter to have that attention or using more brush strokes to have that depth in their reflective eyes. But I was a bit tired, and this made the progress of the painting slower than usual. I actually did plan to finish some parts of the women's clothes, but I did ended up doing it on the other day. In this clip, I decided to become bolder and throw the tones instead of being careful. I do not recommend you guys to do this, but I just want to say that if you feel like experimenting something and going out of your comfort zone, then just do it. Be courageous and have that confidence in you. Every painting is fixable as long as you know your art and yourself as a painter and as an artist. Don't let their judgments and your insecurities to have that effect on the way you paint, because you are still learning and you will forever will be in the art field. There are a lot of things to learn, so let yourself grow freely and not be stuck on a hole. There are always a first, and just like me, doing this painting is a first, and I allow myself to be challenged. I was unmotivated, but I challenged myself to be motivated just to finish this painting. Take your time to grow and develop your art skills. Just like they quote, life is not a race. How much more if we are talking about art? Some of you asked which art school, painting workshops I go, and art books I read to have this talent or skill to be developed. I never done those. All I did was draw and draw until I decided to explore charcoal painting. And after charcoal painting, I tried acrylic paints until I used oil paints, which changed my life. I personally rely on YouTube videos to learn and reference photos to enhance my skill. I received constructive criticism to other people, and I used those to develop myself as an artist instead of being dismayed by their comments. Use criticism as a weapon and a tool, not your enemy. Now, speaking of weapon, the knight's armor has a lot of details in the original painting, and it was complicated that I have to draw the bigger lines as a guide for the smaller details to be followed. And you know how oil paints work. It needs patience and more layering compared to acrylic paints, and it does take a lot of days, probably 2 to 3 days for it to dry. So basically, the smaller details were supposedly done on the last day, but since I have to go back to my college, I made some revisions so that the armor will still look full, but not that messy without having that much of a details. I ended up regretting not doing those details, but time did not allow me to, so I have no choice but to have those major revisions and skipping those details. Now, if you have unlimited time, don't be afraid to go to the smaller details on the painting. Don't be impatient and be lazy. I admit being like that every now and then, but there are indeed times that I take details seriously, and after finishing it, the satisfaction looking at my work is beyond words, and it makes me feel proud of myself that I managed to do this and that is how a painter or an artist should feel in his or her work. And I do hope that you're going to feel that as well as you continue to grow and conquer those imperfections of yours. Now, I know human beings are imperfect and will always be, but once you consider your artwork as perfect, then it is perfect, because only you know how much your skills improved or were challenged while painting that masterpiece. You've given your all, and that is enough as a painter and as an artist who is still growing and developing. There is nothing much going on about the ribbons, but after a while I became aware of how dry the color was because my family kept on saying that it was a bit dull, that I ended up redoing it off cam to have that vibrant look. I also did redo the women's hair to a much darker shade so that the painting will have that kind of balance in it. But before that one, I did focus on the background. The challenging part of the background was the clouds and not the mountains or the trees or the grass. I was a bit harsh on the clouds instead of having that soft feeling. It was a mistake I made, but I was already happy on how it looked. Believe it or not, this was the first time I painted cloud, and I directly painted it on a large canvas instead of practicing first. It was a bold move, but I have no regrets. The only thing that I could say on the clouds is that always start on the darker shade and then work it until the lighter shade, just like I said in the beginning of this video. Aside from that, I was not able to show in this video, but I did make some retouch on the painting and then it was finished.